Hello, my name is Brant Hunt, and my channel is simply called Discerning What is True. Today is the 10th day of, that's right, November 2024. And we're going to be reading another particular chapter of Phil Langdon's book, which is simply the book of Revelations that has been decoded. That's the Revelation of the Holy Spirit, decoded by Phil Langdon. This chapter is chapter 9, and it's simply called The First Woe. So I'm going to read this particular book for you guys because I feel like it simply is, I shouldn't say feel, I know that it's the truth. Okay? And the more people, look into this, it will hopefully see the truth and what Phil Langdon's trying to share. So it's called The First Woe. And let me get the card up here for you. From the tarot cards, which is called the Hermit. The First Woe. The ninth Hebrew letter is Tet, T-E-T, meaning 9. I'm sorry, it's number 9, meaning good or best, like truth. This corresponds to the 9 months of pregnancy. The 9 tarot card is the Hermit, the earliest representation of which addressed the figure of time and Saturn. The Hermit suggests deep contemplation and the guidance, or just not guidance, but the prudence to incorporate the passages of time into the issues under consideration, taking the past, present, and future into account to reach and maintain a balanced state of being. Furthermore, the number 9 is a true number. Truth, that is, spelled E-M-S, is spelled with the first, middle, and last letters of the alphabet. Aleph, Mem, and Tuf. That's spelled A-L-E-F, Mem, M-E-M, and Tuf, T-U-V. The lesson is that something's true. Must be true at the beginning, in the middle, and at the end. The gematria of E-M-S, is truth, is 4, 4, 1. Aleph equals 1. Mem, M-E-M-E, M-E-M, equals 40. And Tav, T-A-V, equals 400. All this is in the Hebrew. Each letters in the Hebrew represent numbers. So 4 plus 4 plus 1 equals 9. When we multiply any whole number by 9, the sum of its digits, that is gematria, is also 9. 2 times 9 equals 18, meaning 18. 1 plus 8 equals 9. 9 times 9 equals 81. 8 plus 1 equals 9, and etc. The truth with flesh, that is truth with flesh, is sharing here, example, is God's unifying principle, which bridges the spiritual with the physical world. Unifying principle here, okay? Having a dual nature, born again at the start of chapter 8 in Revelation. The new boss is still the same as the old boss. If you remember that song here, I'm trying to think of it as an English band that did that song. Anyway, the light is always dual, since it is always the union of two opposites, you see. The only distinction between the creative and the redemptive aspect of the light are its associate qualities. As the automatic, indifferent, and impersonal creator in the abyss, the light is Lucifer, the devil, who makes a physical system, the cosmos, and appears in it, suggestively, as its creatures. As the Redeemer, however, the light is now only the Son of God to the individual and the eternal home of angels. So you see the hold two opposites here. Light is Lucifer. It would cause people to have a struggle with that, you see. Got to wrap your head around that one. Chapter 9 is in two halves. The first covers the evil of the beast and his demonic forces within. And the second is Nous, N-O-U-S, as the real mind and his forces that counteract. The trumpet calls of woe are applicable to the ordeals of the cruder psychic and sensual desires that fiercely rush to protect the throne of the beast. At the naval center, as a swarm of locusts going out to battle with human characteristics, as we will see. So this is now the reading of the book of Revelation chapter 9, verse 1. Quote, the fifth angel sounded his trumpet, and I saw a star that had fallen from the sky to the earth. The star was given the key to the shaft of the abyss. The star, that is, fallen from the sky to the earth, which would be the lower realm, is the morning star, Venus, in the negative form of Hecate, H-E-C-A-T-E, who symbolizes the cruelty of primordial substance, the lower archetype divinity of the abyss, the beast and governor of the lower desires as Lucifer. Lucifer, quote, Lucifer, the fallen son of the morning, the debased psychic mind of man, which is indeed the ruler over the abysmal depths of desire, the bottomless pit of the passionate nature, and the murderer of truly all that is pure, beautiful, and true, end quote. This is from James M. Price, P-R-Y-S-E, from the Apocalypse Unsealed, page 47. So as Phil Langdon, he shows something here. Here, I don't know if you can see it real well because it's almost all dark black here. Let's see. So what he has here, let's see what this one is. I'm trying to read this thing real quickly here. Let me change this thing back to this. So what he's doing here in this part here is showing, if I could see this, if you can see this whole thing here, his book. This is the lower part. This is what he's talking about, Lucifer. This is where he reigns at, in your lower part of yourself. Also, you're on the part over here, in the top here, you have four colors, but you also have in the middle what they call the sympathetic nervous system. And so I'm going to show you here at this part here. The bottom one, I said, was to deal with what we call it. I meant looking this, went ahead a little myself a little bit quickly. The false seer is the bottom one. Sorry. Okay. The middle one here, the next one up into 4, is called the red dragon, which that makes sense. That's a fire sign. Okay. That's where you in your belly, you really, that's why your navel area is where your, feelings are, an emotional part of you. Then the part up here is the beast. Okay. And then eventually the top part is the lamb. Okay. So the title Lucifer simply means light, like the name Luke or Lucas, and may apply to both spiritual and physical aspects of the light, depending on context. Like a knife, it depends how we use it. One way of using a knife is simply cutting a piece of meat. But we also can use a knife simply as a weapon to actually cause harm to someone else. As the limited further distances themselves from their physical roots as the angelical trumpets sound off, the vestiges of the old order are cast down by the archangels, moving towards the pristine nature of spirit as the master of truth over the personal physical system, the body. So this is why we war. This is why we war within ourselves, is to do with it, trying to deal with the body, because we have different aspects of what we want, and most of those don't lead to the right perspective. And so we want to become what we call becoming a temple of God, meaning having the understanding what is really going on within ourselves. As a result, Lucifer, as the, quote, blind and foolish creator God, who makes the body and may even be taken as the physical body itself, is figuratively being cast down from his throne at the navel center of desire, along with the sympathetic nervous system, responsible for quickness in assumptions and prejudiced thinking, fight or flight response. You know, when you're someone threatening you and something could happen to you type of thing, what happens if you run, you run all, either I stand up for myself or I flee. You see, you do that, one of the two. Okay. That's just, you have something happening before you and you're trying to make the right decision. You see, you figure this out when you actually deal with certain things in your life. And so he's trying to explain to you that's where you use the sympathetic nervous system in collaboration with the emotions and passions that forsake understanding for opinion. When you feel threatened by someone, you either stand up for yourself or you flee. Quote, the results produced by the three remaining trumpet calls he would call by basically Johannes terms as, quote, woes, since they entail what I would call very trying ordeals, the issue of which is certain failure to the unpurified neophyte, of whom it had been said, quote, his vices will take shape and drag him down. His sins will raise their voices like as the jackals laugh and sob after the sun goes down. His thoughts become an army and bear him off a captive slave. That's from page 46 of Apocalypse Unsealed by James M. Price. In association with the sympathetic nervous system, the lower mind, that is, going to send out his powers, portrayed as a swarm of locusts with distinctive physical characteristics as an allegory for the struggle to maintain control over the lower centers in the body, now fallen. In an estimation to the archangels, the center Nadi, N-A-D-I, the Shus Huma, becomes the allegory, what we call shaft of the abyss, whose key refers to the fact that the creator, Lucifer, has the keys to death and Hades. The abyss is represented in the night sky as the constellation Crater, the great twin handler chalice of the god Apollo. It has an abbreviation of Son of God. And the phallic god Lachos, L-A-C-C-H-O-S. Next to the cup is the raven constellation Corvus, C-O-R-V-U-S, sent by Apollo to fetch some water for a ritual. The raven, that is the soul incarnation, becomes distracted by a fig tree and waited for it to ripen so he could eat before coming back late with water, snake, a hydro, to compensate its master. So this is shown in an astrological sign here. So you see crater and you see the raven here on this particular deal, okay? Apollo is said to have responded as the furious cosmic creator who throws a tantrum and hurls energy, casting all three into the sky, making a stellar allegory of existence that involves the abyss, that is the cup, the river of life, which is the water snake, and those who incarnate, which is all of us, a raven, right below Virgo and Leo in the zodiac ring. Raven symbolizes associations, that is, their intelligence with prophecy and insight, connecting the worlds of spirit, I should say, and energy, while their black plumage connotes ill omen, on the other hand, both of which are strangely unified in the death associations with ascension and concurrently the good and evil nature of incarnation. The lower form of Venus, Hecate, Hecate, turns up again later in Revelation as the whore of Babylon, riding the seven-headed serpent, see, or Hydra, Hydra, relatable to the archons, or kingdoms of nature, as the feminine aspect of the androgynous creator / devil and its limited system, based in central eternalized desire, misunderstanding, and acquisition, I should say. Let's see if I can show that to you here. Let's see if you can see this in the tar here. Let's see, this would be yeah, you can see the seven-headed dragon. You can see also the Virgo, Leo. It's also in dark here. So what you have is Crater at the bottom. You have Virgo and Leo at the very top. You have Hydra to the what we call the Hydro snake here. And I don't know if it's going to be easy for you guys to see this. Kind of hard. You also have the woman with the seven-headed dragon. So this is from Revelations 9:2. When he opened the abyss, smoke rose from it like the smoke from a gigantic furnace. The sun and sky were darkened by the smoke from the abyss. Verse 3. And out of the smoke, locusts came down upon the earth and were given power like that of scorpions of the earth. Opening abyss is a social statement to the act of creation as a, quote, a gigantic furnace, end quote. The sun and sky refer to Leo and the head, and respectively spiritually darkened when ascension occurs as smoke rises from the creator forces. Allegories rise as Satan's throne, from which he sends his forces down to the lowest chakra at the earth center to fight off the archangel. The external nature of cosmic creation from a purity physical point of view also allows us to interpret the locus as analogous to human content, whose major physical characteristic is to consume, comparably to a swarm of locusts. You can see this with people today. They're constantly they're hungry, but they eat the wrong foods, so they're never filled. And it's even also with wine or alcohol. People are not, they're not content. They just continue to have excess of that. So they lose control of what's going on in many ways. They're not in control, should be a better word. And we all know physical life has a sting in its tail with death, as Scorpio symbolizes representing danger and death. Verse 4, they were told not to harm the grass, the earth, or any plant or tree, but only those people who did not have the seal of God on their foreheads. And this is a real big one here, folks. People how get all wrapped up in this whole thing of 666 also, thinking this is what it's about. Verse 5, they were not given power to kill them, but only to torture them for 5 months. And the agony they suffer was like that of the sting of a scorpion when it strikes a man, end quote. Verse 6, during those days, men will seek death, but will not find it. They will long to die, but death will elude them. So this is a whole concept. People actually, we're told, in my time, people will seek to get away. They're afraid of God, so they go and hide themselves. This is, this some, type of thing. This is what they teach in churches, certain churches. Since we're dealing with trumpets going off in initiative and not a future prediction, only those who did not have the seal on their foreheads. It's telling us about the sympathetic nervous system. Those who would go through these procedures as an initiative under instruction without having become purified enough within are considered a danger to themselves as the closeness to divinity approaches. The sympathetic nervous system is where the carnal mind energizes. And inner work such as this has consequences with the experience of energies within the centers, if not control. 5 months, that is, quote here, is comparable to the summer months, you see, which are more like night for the soul. full of activity that is towards the physical distractions of the body's passion and desires, developing the energy of the lower center with too much activity or frustration, even false satisfaction, and the lower emotions that produce little or no spiritual fruit. And then he puts this in brackets, something useful to take with you from the experience, end quote. Sometimes, in the brackets, sometimes unto death, the sting in the tail of life. Winter is more contemplative and melancholy, like day for the soul, mystery speaking, that is, and association quality, eventually leading us to the gate of one within and the seal of understanding. Not that most people have a bad time in summer, but the idea conveyed is that the last of the illuminate's unconscious content, seemingly that is, fiercely attacks them from within with desires relating to both the upper emotional content and its lower sensualities. Verse 7. The locusts looked like horses prepared for battle. On their heads they wear something like crowns of gold, and their faces resemble human faces. Verse 8. Their hair was like women's hair, and their teeth were like lions' teeth. Verse 9. They had breastplates like breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was like the thundering of many horses and chariots rushing into battle. You can see how people can see this if they don't look at it figuratively or allegorically, take this to be, literal, you see. And this is why you have this craziness that's being talked about. Verse 10, they had tails and stings like scorpions, and in their tails they had power to torment people for 5 months. End quote. The crowns of the locusts are not gold, but resemble gold, as the ego of the lower mind and its desires, you see. The last kingdom of humanity, that is human faces, is mentioned as the last item of the composited locust, confirming we are dealing with a motif of a lower army of the human being, associated with evil thoughts and intentions. Quote, breastplates of iron, end quote, refers to Mars, that is the war god, since iron is the metal of Mars, and these aspects of the ego mean war. Physical nature is also female compared with the male principle of spirit that impregnates matter. Metaphorically, that is. Women bear new life as the universe does on a regular basis. As such, in the mysteries, the universe is a woman, and therefore, fundamentally, so is the human being, its microcosm. Quote, teeth like irons, quote, end quote, refers to the great lion-headed beast and chief archon, Ariel Yaltavo, her ferocious child, whose highest physical place is the throne of the lower mind. Since physicality, he is blind to all that is spiritual. So this is an example of Yaltavo, who cannot see the spiritual. All he sees is the physical. You see, and this is where, and what this is an example of, he's sharing, is an example of those who don't crave the physical, do not pursue the physical, who do not pursue the spiritual. So the throne of the lower mind. That's all they know. Verse 11, they had as king over them the angel of the abyss, whose name is in Hebrew is Abandon, A-B-A-D-D-O-N. I may have pronounced that wrong. Please forgive me. And in Greek, Apollon. So, Phil does something else here, which he reveals with what we call, which is illustrated by author M. Young in some ways. This is just the Hermetic principles. He uses the 7, which is revealed here at the bottom. So this particular figure here is the Yaltavo figure here. You see, the different things here, the red here, like a snake. Anyway, the Hermetic principles are what we call archons. And many people have gotten this confused too, as many people think the archons are some type of out of space beings. Okay, So just showing you this graph here. So you're talking about pulse correspondence, energy, vibration, atomic polarity. At the bottom, you have a molecular, and then you move back up to the vegetable, what they call cause and effect. The animal is the genter, and then an intellect, which is the mentalism. And it's the very highest part, and then what we call creation to ascension. This was also revealed by author M. Young in his works. Not specifically, in some ways similar to this, what he's sharing. Sometimes he did not. He grasped certain things pretty well, and is what he shared with this particular, what I call an upside, pyramid in some ways. It's called the Hermetic Principles of Archons. So we continue on. The angel of the abyss is the one and only creator, Abanton, meaning place of destruction, and Apollon, meaning destroyer. This is the creator and destroyer of the universe, the physical beast. Ariel Yataval, whose body of archons exists as a human being before divine inspiration. Only beating him at his incarnation game will free us from his automatic influences. You see, this is where all people struggle. I mean, all people struggle with this, folks, with the cravings that we have for the flesh in many ways. The only way to do that is to become the opposite, which is the spirit, and become free. So verse 12 says, the first woe is past. 2 other woes are yet to come. Verse 13, the 6th angel sounded his trumpet, and I heard a voice coming from the horns of the golden altar that is before God. Verse 14, it said to the 6th angel who had the trumpet, quote, release the 4 angels who are bound at the great river of Euphrates. Verse 15, and the 4 angels who had been kept ready for this very hour and day and month, year were released to kill 1/3 of mankind. So you can see how this whole thing, again, with the last days, eschatology in the Bible is taught in a literal framework that causes a lot of confusion. Okay. So the 6th angel is at the pituitary body, securing the cerebrospinal system, looking to the pineal region, the golden altar, that is. Gold is the sun's metal, being the gnosis, nous, true higher mind, where the horns, which is the solar forces, as to release the 4 angels holding back the radiance as the 4 solar pranas. Phil goes on to explain here, the great river Euphrates is the great and abounding river of the spine. Okay, physiologically, now flooding with the light of Archangel Raphael at the 6th chakra, looking for the Archangel Michael at the 7th. The 7th would be initially at the top. The specific moment spoken of in the 4 scales of time, hour, day, month, and year. The regions of the 4 quarters is the one in which the throne of the beast is going to be overwhelmed by the pranas as 1/3 of the 3 lower somatria centers, that is to kill 1/3 of mankind. So it's talking about a spiritual issue here within yourself, because it kills the 3 lower parts of your mind, the cravings you have. Okay. And that allows you to move upward, you see. This is the whole idea. That's what the whole pyramid is talking about too. All these things are showing, that's what the capstone is about eventually. The very part is when you finally have, you actually no longer have duality in a way. You become spiritually, but you no longer have the cravings of these other things that keep you bound to the earth or to the physical. Verse 16 and 17. The number of the mounted troops was 200 million. I heard their number. Verse 17. The horses and riders I saw in my vision looked like this. Their breastplates were fiery red, dark blue, and yellow as sulfur. So if I change this a little bit here, he's talking about he's talking about some things here. So let's get into this all. So he's talking about archetypes. He's talking about worlds. He's talking about centers. And he's talking about gunas. So in this particular section of this book here, it will show these things. You'll show the archetypes, which is all at the beginning. You'll have the worlds at the next point, and the next one will be centers and the gunas. Okay? And so here you are, right here. The archetypes right here. And you'll see the archetypes is the first one here. You first have a single point. You have a line that's connected. Then you have what we call a triangle. And eventually, in the last part, you have a pyramid. And then you have what we call the worlds, the abyss, the pluronium, abyss. And you have, I'm trying to read this, cosmic, and what we call the black hole or galaxy. So these are illustrations of the four. Then you have within the human body, the centers is the very top is the lamb. In the middle part of your chest area is the beast. The next is the red dragon. And the bottom part is the four seers. And then the last one is you have here, which comes from, I think it's from India or from the East, is the gunas. And I can't really exactly pronounce these, so I'm going to probably butcher them. But you have the lower part is the blue, the middle part is the red, and the yellow is the top. And the top was SATTBA, Rajas, RAJAS. And the last one here is to do with, can't read it here. It's a little too dark. But anyway, it looks like TAMAS, Thomas, TAMAS. So when he says the number 200 million, which is already a red flag for you to see if you understand the numbers here, the 200 million starts with 200, related to the Hebrew letter of R, which is Resh, R-E-S-H, which meaning simply is the head, which is where ascension occurs. So 1 million is 1,000 square. So you multiply 1,000 times 1,000, you get a square, or 1 million, referring to a square circle in the head, which is called Resh. Meaning head, where ascension occurs. 1 million is one of the a square referring to a square circle in the head Resh. I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. In other words, these horsemen are from the true mind going out to overcome and conquer. There's a backup text we can consult to help us connect with what is spoken of here in chapter 4 of the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna explains the three aspects of cosmic nature applied to a human, and their carnal, or what we call karma, I should say carnal, but karma or destiny. Let me tell you more about the wisdom that transcends all knowledge. Applied to a human and their karma or destiny. Well, let me tell you more about the wisdom that transcends all knowledge, through which the saints and sages attain perfection. Those who rely on the wisdom will be united with me. For them, there is neither rebirth nor fear of death. Yeah, once you have the ascension moment it takes in your life, you don't lose it. You see, you sealed yourself, okay? So there's no longer the fear of death, because this will be the last time you're going to incarnate here. Quote, my womb is Prakriti, which is the abyss, is that I replace the seed, which is the cloud. Thus, all creative things are born. Everything born comes to the womb of Prakriti, and I am the seed-giving father. It is the three gunas born of Prakriti. First is the intellect / reason, which is yellow. Rajas is the emotion / passion. And red is the tamas, which is the senses, or sensual, which is blue. So there's red, yellow, and blue. When I'm sorry, I just butchered these. So when you have the intellect or the reason, the contemplation predominates, the light of wisdom shines through every gate of the body, which is the gates or the chakras. When rajas, the passions predominate, a person runs about pursuing selfish and greedy ends. In other words, he's always, he never is still. That's another key. He's not still. He's always looking. Driven by restlessness and desire. When tamas, that is the sexual nature, is dominant, a person lives in darkness, slothful, confused, and easily infatuated. In this description, we find the word prokrita, referring to the womb of the abyss in which is the seed of the cosmos, known as Brahman, the cloud. Notice the first three letters in his title are the same as the first three letters of the text of Genesis. B-R-A, referring to the beginning of creation, meaning in, at the head of, end quote. From this condition, the universe explains full of the archetype of the three gunas, fire, smoke, and sulfur, which becomes the three aspects of the human psyche, and the samadhi centers are known as the intellect at the head, which are yellow. Passions and desires at the heart and navel centers are red, leaving the physical senses and sensuality at the lowest creative center, which are blue, as the three aspects of fire, red, sulfur, yellow, and smoke being blue, making the human. Many ancient writers only highlight three of the bodily centers, often ignoring the lowest or combining it with the navel. That's the reason why you have three here showing in the Eastern perspective. Verse 17, the heads of the horses resembled the heads of lions, and out of their mouths came fire, smoke, and sulfur. Verse 18, a third of mankind was killed by the three plagues of fire, smoke, and sulfur, and come out of their mouths. Verse 19, the power of the horses was in the mouths and their tails, for their tails were like snakes, having heads with which they inflict injury. The rest of mankind, they were not killed by these plagues, still did not repent of the work of their hands. They did not stop worshiping demons, idols of gold, silver, bronze, stone, and wood idols that cannot see or hear or walk. Verse 21, nor did they repent of their murders, their magic arts, their sexual immortality, or morality, I should say, or their thefts. So these verses are comparing horses with the solar powers of the lion-headed creature, who is associated with the universe of three gunas, yellow, red, and blue. That conclude with the human. Out of their mouths come fire, smoke, and sulfur to balance the passion, desires, and sense attachments of the individual creator. Creature, I should say, not creator, creature. Inflicting injury on the physical nature with a holy triple alchemy nod to transformation. Having power in the mouths and tails is a way of characterizing the nervous system from the brain, the mouths, to nerve endings in the tails where they inflict injury to the lower centers. And he's just illustrating this with this, what we call the snake, and also with the astrological signs of a human being. Let's see if I can show this pretty quick here. Right there. So the vast armies of the light, L-I-G-H-T, conquer the false teaching or thinking as presumptuous of the lower mind. This is how you get control. You see, you're no longer controlled by the aspects of your lower mind, your desires, especially the desires to do with sensuality and sexuality, such and such. There's nothing wrong with these things if they're done in the right purpose, but people are allowed in many ways to no longer control those things, you see. So they're no longer in control. So they just kind of do what they want to do, you see. Continue on. The rest of mankind, in quotes, are the carnal mind of the lower centers, which will not repent of the works of their hands, simply because that is the, quote, evil, end quote, half of their nature. Not that the illuminate remains in evil, more that physical nature simply carries on with the body, but in a balanced, grounded, and controlled manner from the highest center. So what he's explaining simply is they're no longer on their own, but have been unified and been conquered by the higher aspect of what's happened here in your head. So that is the conclusion of this particular chapter, chapter 9. So anyway, whatever. Someone's got a comment here. Good luck with that. So anyway, I'm just explaining about the spiritual context here. I'm not talking about what they're teaching in the churches, because I've been in the churches. So appreciate your comment, David. Have a good day. So we'll go on to chapter 10 maybe in the next time we have. Probably this will be the last video tonight. 2 videos. Revelations of the Holy Spirit decoded by channel chapter 9 by Phil Langdon. Again, wish you a good evening. Again, if you have eyes to see and ears to hear, you'll hear the truth. It's not in a literal framework, and most people don't get it. So I used to be in that association too. So anyway, thank you again for your comments. Wish you a good evening. You take care.